Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, July 27. If you are watching live on Monday, July 27, we encourage you to call in. If you have any comments or questions, our call-in number is 769-1677. As always, you can watch us live on Verizon or Cablevision cable TV or at pctv76.org. And within a couple of days, you can pick up an on-demand webcast of our meeting, bookmarked by subject at pctv76.org. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 10 at 8 p.m. With a work session at 7. A couple of announcements to make. The first is you have doubtless been modestly inconvenienced by all this work that's going on in the various roadways. There's a big gas main replacement going on Bedford Road near the Old Village, and now I understand work is going on up the hill up towards Skytop. Patty, is that the case?
Yes.
Is that
it's Con Edison as well.
So we've got Con Edison work going on in various places in the community. We're following them around and keeping the heat on to make sure that they restore the roads when they're completed, but they're spending quite a bit of money on improved infrastructure in the Village of Pleasantville, and so that part of it, amid the difficulties of putting up with it, is ultimately going to create a better, more resilient system. Congratulations to a couple of recent events. One is this past weekend, the Pleasantville Lions Club had their hole-in-one fundraiser down at Parkway Field. I was away this weekend, but understand it went well. Our farm market continues to rock and roll on Saturdays, but between 8:30 and 1. Recently voted the best farm market in Westchester by Westchester Magazine. So congratulations to our farm market and the folks over at Foodchester, who are our contract managers of the whole thing. And I want to give a shout out once more to Andy Goodman and his entire team of people at the Pleasantville Music Festival, who put together a great day on Saturday, July 11, a really fantastic day and a great result for the Village of Pleasantville, a very happy event, and congratulations to those people who put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as well as heart and soul into the event, and it turned up to pay off in lots of ways. And then lastly, I wanted to congratulate Bonnie Sarin, who has relatively recently opened Little Mumbai Market in Pleasantville on Bedford Road. Here it is, the new dining issue for Westchester Magazine, which has Little Mumbai Market in Pleasantville on the cover. So happy news for Bonnie and her team. Happy news for the Village of Pleasantville. Nice to see a popular Pleasantville eatery find its way to the front page of a prominent magazine.
Well, the most important event that you failed to mention, that I'm shocked here, was not only did our Pleasantville swim team have their invitational, which was a spectacular event, but it was also on the same day of the Great Duck Race. And I'm stealing my colleague's thunder here because I was
going to invite a speech on the subject.
No, but I have to, because I want to compliment him, because he won't do it for himself. But this was really one of the most exciting events that people that never went to it were like, this is unbelievable, even though we didn't have water, because we usually have this in June and it was rained out, and so we had to have it in July. So Steve was a little panicked because the fire department came and we had, I thanked them, and I sent pictures to the Examiner of our great volunteers, and Pleasantville's Finest was there as well, but this was, how many ducks did you have?
Oh, well over 500 ducks this year.
500 ducks going down the lazy river. It was a lazy river kind of meandering race.
Meandering duck race.
Right, and Steve once again did an unbelievable job. I just commend you. It was so exciting, and the swim team, headed by Petra Zorgman, the swim team board, she did just a great job. They were there Saturday night, setting up the whole Zorgman family, Maria Rule and her family, and Suzanne Largy and her family, and Jill Jameson and her family, and there they were, and they had for the invitational, which was 4 teams were invited from various different areas in Westchester County, and they They bought ducks, and they got to decorate the ducks there, and then enter them into the race. And then the different events, they had dragon races
that
in the
was cool.
pool with big floats. It was just a spectacular day. The pool was done up in they just did a great job decorating it. They had breakfast burritos, they had breakfast
it was a lot of work.
shakes, food galore. It was just really unbelievable. And I had some great pictures I sent over to Martin, and Shane said he would do a show with us.
Oh, great.
And the stars, Steve Lord over here of the Bringing the Duck Race. It was our what annual?
Fifth, I believe.
Our fifth.
Fourth
And
or fifth.
It was really amazing. If you have an opportunity to see some of the pictures, and even to go next year, but James Bathon was his duck.
His duck.
Was the winner of
Not
the
by much, but he did it.
of the
Of the
iWatch,
Apple Watch.
Apple Watch.
Oh, nice.
So
And be given the speed that the ducks were going, it was really pretty funny because everybody was packed around the finish line, and the ducks were literally like moving like this, and somebody else.
and then they get stuck in the rock.
Oh.
And then we had a bunch of people in the stream trying to
Yep.
get them out.
The duck minders. We had a whole. Yeah, we should thank the duck minders as well. We had a whole. What's a group of ducks called?
A gaggle?
A gaggle of
No,
duck
that's
minders
geese, I think.
that were helping us rescue the ducks. We
Well,
have
the
a
group
motto
of
in the duck
ducks.
race that we leave no duck left behind. And every duck that goes into the stream comes out of the stream, and we succeeded in that again. Just to adjunct with append to what
Definitely.
you said.
I just wanted to give you the kudos. You
During the
deserve that.
Invitational, one of the things, we had 4 teams from outside of town there, and I think this is important to the board here as well, that I had several people come up to me, and you might have as well, from folks up from out of town that have been coming to the Pleasantville Pool for swim meets for a very long time, who were really, really happy with the renovations that we did up there.
Yep.
It was really
Looks
well
so
received.
pretty.
They were very, very happy with the bathrooms. They weren't afraid to go into them anymore. And the outdoor shower. I heard
That was
that
a big
several
thing.
times, that the
Yeah, people
outdoor
love
shower,
that
thank
outdoor
God
shower.
you put in the outdoor shower. If you're not a swimmer, you don't do that all the time, it may not seem like a big deal, but the outdoor shower is really a very important thing. So I wanted to throw that out as well, that the renovation we did up there, we worked hard on trying to find that balance between what it would cost and what we would want, but people from out of town really noticed it.
It's a picture of the ducks. Can you see it, Shane? Isn't that great?
Yeah, we had prizes for best dressed duck, most creative duck, upside down duck. This year we had a new prize. We had stuck duck because one duck actually went into a rock crevice like way up and was really, really jammed. It was a lot of fun.
No Apple Watch for Stuck Duck.
No Apple Watch for Stuck Duck. Stuck Duck got a Yogalicious gift certificate. Thank you to them. Also,
Yes.
thank you to Wood and Fire. They gave I believe it was our second or third place. No, yeah, third place prize. We also had a pair of Beats headsets donated, which was our second place prize, and of course the Apple Watch. So, a lot of fun had by all, despite all sorts of challenges in getting enough water to go down that little creek so the ducks actually moved.
Here, I'll show you our bravest who were very excited. I kept telling them, it's really up to you. You could change the direction of this race, which they got a real kick out of. Can you get that? We had Sam. Sam was there.
Yep. They brought the tanker truck in, and we're happy to help us out a little bit. And that's also very important too, because that water is hydrant water. It's not chlorinated, so entering it into the stream has no ill effects at all for the whole ecosystem that's there. Which is actually, if you haven't walked through there, it's pretty vibrant. There's all sorts of stuff living around there.
Yeah, and the work that went into this
It's a lot of
was
work.
really unbelievable. But
No snake
and
this year.
and there was no snake, which was but there was people from out of town, and they were like,
Yes.
"This is phenomenal. Not only did you give us a great time at the
that's fun.
Invitational, but then to kick it off, and it was really a great idea. The Invitational was, usually we have it after our clinic.
Right.
We have the duck race, but it really worked out well. Unfortunately, it's later in the year, and you don't have as much water. Although it rained that
It
day.
proceeded to pour for 2 hours afterwards.
All right. Well, that is
Thank you
That's
very
all
great
much,
news.
Steve.
Thank you to all,
Thank
and good news
Good
about the
time.
positive feedback about the pool. Shout out to Jim Coleman, who was the architect for that renovation, local Pleasantville guy. So happy news and congratulations to all, and great duck race,
Yeah, it was a
great
lot of fun.
invitational. Colleen reminded me to report the very happy news that Patty and the village finance staff had a conference call with Moody's Investors Service as we are anticipating a rollout of some new serial bonds, and they affirmed our AA2 rating, which is a very strong rating. And I will just read to you that summary piece from Moody's report. Pleasantville's financial position will remain strong in the medium term as the village administration continues to budget conservatively and plan several years in advance. Over the past 5 years, available fund balances averaged a solid 25.1% of revenues. Revenues and expenditures have both increased slightly, driven by higher property taxes and employee benefits. Fiscal 2014 ended with an available fund balance of $3.5 million, 23.6% of revenues, an increase of $548,000. So it goes on, and we can post this report up on the website for anyone who is a wonk about matters of that kind, but happy news. And for a village of this size, with the amount of outstanding debt we have, AA2 is a very, very strong rating. Don't get much more attention from Moody's than that. So
I just want to thank Patty and Mary and Noreen for all of their efforts in assuring that.
Thank you.
likewise, a strong team, and it's as it does every day, shows results. So, a couple of things I wanted to mention in work session earlier this evening. We met with the folks in the recycling committee, and they presented to us a draft resolution that would put the Pleasantville Village Board in support of the concept of a county-wide effort to ban single-use plastic bags and expanded polystyrene containers. It's a resolution that's not specific to what that legislation would be, but it encourages County Legislator Catherine Parker in her effort to bring before the county legislators a county-wide proposal for a plastic bag and polystyrene container ban. And we anticipate putting that resolution on our agenda at the next meeting. So people are encouraged to comment if they wish, but I think the majority of this board is in favor of that, and obviously we'll have a chance to voice everybody's opinion on it when we have it on our agenda. The other thing I wanted to mention is that in work session after our regular meeting tonight, another thing that we have on our agenda is the discussion of a tree ordinance. That tree ordinance would establish some controls over trees that are removed on public property and in the public right-of-way, and also establish a modest payment based on the size of the tree trunk if a tree is to be removed from public property or the public right-of-way. So, for example, in circumstances where it is necessary to remove a bunch of trees, for example, a Con Edison project or some of the other projects that end up happening in and around public land, this would establish a mechanism to fund the replacement of those trees, either in similar locations or, if they're incompatible, in nearby locations. So that obviously is something that would be of public interest, and we'll have that on for discussion when we have a solid draft. But in work session, we're talking about it in a general way, and encourage anybody who has any opinions to weigh in on it. Those of you who've been watching the last few meetings know that we have been considering and had a public hearing on the subject of community choice aggregation. That's the mechanism by which Sustainable Westchester would go out to bid on electric and gas at either fixed or variable rates under a specific contract. I think the majority of this board is inclined to participate in that, but a wrinkle arose about the gross receipts tax, which is a tax that has existed for years and generates about $100,000 in annual revenue to the village of Pleasantville, and it needs to be vetted to make sure that that would still apply in this circumstance. So we expect to have that back on for discussion and resolution as soon as that matter gets resolved. But the folks at Sustainable Westchester are working with Albany and New York Conference of Mayors and a bunch of other entities to try to figure that out. So more on that when we have more to report. Anybody else have something to add to the list there? All right.
We did the ducks.
Let her rip, Mr. Duck.
Ducks in a row.
1:30.
Go. Resolved that pre-check, let me try that again. Resolved that pre-check register dated July 27th, 2015, covering pre-check numbers 81102 through 81227 have been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below. From the general fund, the water fund, the capital fund, the refuse fund, the pool fund, and the trust and agency fund, for a total of $483,149.27.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions on the check register?
Yes. Does this incorporate most, I mean, I think it had been asked by one of us already in the email, is it most of the Pleasantville Music Festival expenses?
Well, yes, today we received invoices from the caterer. That's rather large, a little over $6,000, so that has to go in. Alperson is still not in there, about 7,010. So we're close, but we're
Is
not all there
the
yet.
Love, Hope, Strength bill settled or commission?
Not yet,
Not yet.
because
That can't be settled until we know what the bottom line was.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah, so we're still a couple of weeks
the
away
top
from
So will we get a
reconciliation.
preliminary
Bottom.
soon?
Bottom.
Like
They're on the
I think
bottom?
you had told me that we,
I mean, I have all the
Next,
APs
okay.
payable to date. I can generate that list easily. The band contracts are about 65,000. The AP runs similar, about 65,000 in AP expenses, I believe.
just a preliminary of where we are, like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm still waiting for labor costs. That
and
comes
labor.
out this
But we
Friday.
have all of our revenue
Yeah, do we have
in.
the top line in?
No, we're still expecting more checks. There's a couple of checks still outstanding. So we're close.
Okay, so next time we'll probably have it all together.
Yes.
You have
Well,
any
before
rough,
that,
You have any rough numbers on attendance?
just under 3,000 tickets sold. But
So what that means is
doesn't account for children.
No.
kids are free, so
People are-
Right, I
plus
was just
our
wondering about, I
volunteers,
mean, it
so-
seemed like a very
3,000
full day, and it
Just
was,
little
a
under
lot of
3,000.
people, and it was
Or
nice.
2,800 and
Yeah,
change.
I would say the sort of seat of the pants estimate would be when you add kids and volunteers back, we might have had 3,400,
Yeah,
3,500
we're
people,
definitely between 3,000
something
and
like that.
4,000 people. It was well attended.
Yeah, I don't know about 4,000, but something like 3,500. It was a great event, very successful, and I think we'll clearly have revenues that exceed our expenses. So
Awesome.
again, a shout out again to Andy and company because, among other things, what floated the boat this year for the music festival was not just the strong attendance and ticket sales, but a really substantial effort to increase sponsorships and a successful one, and that's an important piece of the mix for us because the ticket price is only a fraction of the actual cost of running the thing. So, all right, all in favor of the check register?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Mindy, 131.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, June 22nd, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second,
So,
With the
with
correction,
one glaring exception.
yes, that Steve's name was corrected. It's just it's Steve is a Steve is a Steve.
Oh, yeah, I
no?
mean, we're all interchangeable, right?
Why are we approving June 22nd? Shouldn't we be approving July 13?
it is July
It is
13th.
July
Yeah,
13th.
July 13th, sorry.
So the
Good catch, Joe.
the approval of the minutes resolution should read Monday, July 13th. Mover and seconder are happy with that?
Yep.
Yes?
I also want to call out, I just mentioned the community choice aggregation discussion. The July 13 meeting was the public hearing on that subject. So anybody who was interested in that could read through the extended discussion memorialized in the minutes of July 13 about community choice aggregation. Any corrections or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Colleen.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts a retirement notification letter from Mark Sestero, retiring from his position as police sergeant, effective July 24, 2015.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mark Sestaro has been a police officer in the village of Pleasantville for more than 30 years. And we are sorry to see him go, but it's a well-deserved retirement. And we send our congratulations and best wishes. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Joe, 133.
133. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village clerk to notice a public hearing for Monday, August 10, 2015, 8 o'clock p.m. prevailing time at 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to hear comments as it pertains to a local law amending Chapter 173, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 173-60, parking prohibited at all times / Hobby Street as follows. To add to Section 173-60, parking prohibited at all times, a prohibition on Hobby Street on the north side from Marble Avenue to 100 feet west thereof.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the section of Hobby Street on the side street by the BP gas station and convenience store that would eliminate what is currently uncontrolled parking from the corner at Marble Avenue 100 feet down the road, which is roughly speaking the length of the property of the BP station. This has been a subject of concern both to neighbors, patrons of the store and gas station, as well as the management of the gas station, because people end up parking there very close to the exit, and it is difficult to get out and difficult to see around. So anybody who has any comment on that subject, Monday, August 10 at 8 p.m. is the chance to comment about it. I think it is likely that absent some new information that might come to our attention between now and then or at the public hearing, we're likely to have a resolution of approval on the agenda for that night. Aye. Motion approved. Steve.
Whereas sealed bids were advertised in the official village newspaper and received on July 8th, 2015 for janitorial services as follows. So I'll just read out what the bids were and who they were from. Yes? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. So from Fullerton Service Industries in Bedford, $3,840. From Able Building Services in New York, $4,100, $4,129. From Yes Cleaning Services in Cortland, $5,233. And from CNW Cleaning Services in Brooklyn, $5,885. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby awards the bid for janitorial services to Fullerton Service Industries out of Bedford, New York.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, these are monthly
Yes.
fees, so could we, the mover and the second are okay with modifying this to make clear that these are monthly fees based on, is it a one-year contract?
It's a 2-year contract.
2-year contract? So could we amend the resolution just so it's clear that these are monthly fees on a 2-year contract?
Certainly.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
This bid's been vetted and
Yeah, have we
Yeah.
met with all these guys?
I met with one of the principal owners today, went over the terms of the contract. We've changed a lot of the terms from the previous contract, and I believe we were very clear on our expectations, and hopefully they'll perform. If they don't,
Does the contract have an out? I mean, do we have an escape clause in the contract if they don't perform to our expectations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we-
And there's a
without
cure
penalty?
period. It's like they have a cure,
They have a cure
period, but
period.
still we have ways, to communicate better this time around.
Right.
Have we ever used Fullerton before?
We've used them for the last few years.
Satisfied? Obviously, I mean,
They've missed a few things along the way. They've made up
They
where they
corrected?
missed, but
Okay.
we have to we have to put a lot more effort into it than we'd like.
is
We
it
shouldn't
primarily
have to
just
work
this
that
building
hard
and
at
I
it.
guess the rec center and,
It's the rec center. It's this building. It's the senior center. It is.
oh, we do the
pool,
senior center.
And it's Soldiers and Sailors
bathrooms,
bathroom.
soldiers.
And it's the public works facility. It's a big contract. It's a lot of property to cover.
Are they the incumbent?
They are.
And the problems that you've had with them are not sufficient to outweigh the low bid? I mean, I know we always want to try for the low bid, but maybe we're getting the low bid for a reason.
I think that we can give them an opportunity to, step up and meet the specifications. I think there were a lot of communication issues, and how the word
Okay.
got back to the principal
As
was
long as you're
probably a
comfortable
problem.
that if they aren't able to improve or they don't maintain the status or the level of service that you expect, that we have a way to escape from it without being hurt.
No, we have a better way to monitor it now. We think we have to do a lot more than we've been doing to monitor the contract. That's basically the problem. And we will.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Mindy, 135.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to go out for bid for multi-space meters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, you want to describe what we are doing here?
Yes, sure. These multi-space meters are intended to replace the pay and display stations we have in the Manville lot, which is behind Dunkin' Donuts off of Washington Avenue. We are
So it's
looking
behind
to
the
move
bookstore.
into
Don't forget the bookstore. It's behind the bookstore.
behind the bookstore as well. I just picked the corner property. It was easier for me.
And MacArthur's
And
the
MacArthur's.
cleaners
And the cleaners.
Glass onions.
Glass onion. Thank you, Mayor, bailing me out.
Yeah, we got to recover.
But we're just,
Right.
you know, for orientation, everybody knows where they are. Those are first generation pay and display. They've seen, I think, their useful life come and go.
Served
So
long and hard.
we're looking at a system now that's very similar to the systems in place in a number of municipalities throughout the county. The board has actually seen this unit. We brought it in for a demo. You can find them in Mount Kisco, White Plains, Rye, Scarsdale. It's really state-of-the-art technology. If you're inclined to accept credit cards, it can do that. If you're inclined to change any of the back-end information for special events, you can do it. There's just a whole host of options we have to set these meters. We're looking to bid a minimum of 2, maximum of 4, because we may get a better rate. And if we do like the rate that we're getting, we're suggesting the Bedford lot behind the stores between Holy Innocents and the row of stores on Wheeler Avenue also be converted to a pay and display lot. We think people would appreciate that. So, we'll see what we get.
So in White Plains, all the spaces are numbered.
Yes.
In the whole Galleria and all the parking lots, they're all numbered. And you can add time to your space when you have your ticket, and there's a little code, and you can either do it at a little kiosk like in the courthouse. There's a kiosk in the courthouse. You can add time, or you can download an app also and do it off your phone. Are we going to have any functionality like that to add time, or is it just going to be buy your time, display your ticket, and walk away, and you have to go back and move your car or whatever it is?
We can have that. We can certainly have that feature. The board just needs to set the limit on the time in the
Right now,
lot.
that you can stay in
You
the
wouldn't
lot.
want it unlimited.
Yeah,
You wouldn't want people to be able to
you'd have to
refresh
leave your
that
car,
time
so-
all day long, because they'll be in Manhattan doing that.
Because we don't have endless, you can't park there all day.
You want the
Right.
turnover on the wall.
Like,
Right,
this-
okay.
like in my place, you can.
That's a policy issue. I'm wondering about the
That's correct.
functionality of the machine. If we
Yes.
decide
Yes.
to change
It can
things,
do
we
that.
can.
Yeah.
The machine is
It
functional.
has that function. It costs more to do that,
Okay.
but the
But
machine
it
can
can
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
The
Everything
other-
you want to add to it
Right.
costs money, but you can certainly do it. We decide.
Once we know, that we're going to acquire them, what I'll do is I'll give you pretty much a high-level executive summary of what it's going to cost per transaction. So then you can decide how you want to add features or not, because it may cost a few cents, per transaction to have that feature in.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Maybe we're misspeaking here about the pay and display function. The issue we have in the lot on Manville, bookstore, Dunkin' Donuts, et cetera, is we don't have a good place to put to put space numbers because the middle row of spaces is in the middle of the lot. You could obviously put space numbers on the fence for the spaces that face the tracks, and you could cook up something to put space numbers at the head of the spaces that face the building, but it's hard to do it in the middle. You'd have to have pavement markings, and that gets difficult in the winter and all of that to actually read your space. So for that reason, as well as some others, we've had a pay and display where you go and instead of typing in that you're in space 46, you put your money in, you get your receipt, you go back and you put it on the dashboard. If we wanted to enable the capacity to extend your time remotely, like on a smartphone or an app, that wouldn't be a pay and display function. That would be a function where, like it works in a big parking garage in White Plains, the parking enforcement officer is coming and downloading into a device the current status out of every space, and then goes and looks to see whether there's anyone parked in spaces that haven't been paid for. That's not what we're buying here, right, Patty?
Well,
it could be
you
either.
can it's easier to do that in the lot behind the bagel shop and the Bedford lot, right?
Right, where
behind
you
the
can
stores.
where you can number
We
spaces,
can number
you
those.
can do that, and that might drive policy and lengths of time for parking and so on. I don't know, but the machines, the units that we're bidding on have the ability to do that.
That's correct.
And they also can do a pay
And you can
display
change them.
function.
So in the scenario that we added that capability, we would just disable the print function?
You can, yes.
So
But you can
is
also,
it, I guess the core question is it the same physical device?
Yes.
For a pay and display function versus a download data to a parking enforcement officer app
yes.
model? Okay,
And there's no cost.
Great.
I just want to say, to a solution to that problem, that I don't remember where I was that I saw this. I might have been in Florida. There was with a situation like we have in that lot. It was two, because it's not a big span. It was two small stanchions on each side, and there was a cord, a wire, and the actual numbered spaces were on that wire, little placards.
Oh, the
for
people
each
could look to
space.
see where they were.
And it was like, it almost looked like it was suspended if you didn't see the
Yeah.
wire, but it was, a heavy-duty wire cable, and it went from it spanned a pretty large distance, and had metal placards with space numbers. Actually, it was in Florida. It was at a rental place.
Okay.
Right,
Oh, I
car
know.
rental
Yes,
place.
yes, I've seen those.
Yes.
in
Yeah, I have
garages.
too.
That's
So-
where it was.
I mean, we
I
have,
think there are ways to do that.
there may be a way. I mean, we have two issues that, of course, in Florida
But
they
you can
don't have.
also-
One is snow plowing.
You could also pay by plate here, which is interesting.
Right.
So if you didn't
Right, that's
have,
another function we have. on
if
there,
you
which was
didn't
a good
have
one.
numbered spaces, people can
Greenwich
renew
does
by
that.
putting their
Right.
license plate
Yeah.
number in.
So at any rate, there are lots of functions, and although unrelated to what we're talking about immediately, it's worth noting that we had the discussion with the sales rep for the company that we're talking about here about the idea of replacing all our existing meter heads at regular parking spaces with meter heads that could take credit and debit cards, which would obviously be a huge convenience for people. At the moment, you can come to Village Hall and buy a special card that works in our meters, but it's something you have to come back here to replace to get a reloaded one. If you could use a credit or a debit card, it would be a whole lot easier, and that technology is totally out there. It's just expensive because we would have to pay to replace all the meters, and then every meter becomes its own little cellular uplink. So there's a fee per meter per year, as well as a management fee for the website that captures all this data. Great functions, great convenience for people, and great metrics given back to us about the way our parking is actually being used. It's clear that absent the money, it's something we totally would have done already. The problem we confront is that the all-in costs to make the conversion were pushing $200,000. And
500 a meter.
and the bottom line was, unless we were willing to increase our on-street parking cost substantially to something like $1 an hour, or possibly even a little more than that, this system would end up costing the taxpayer money. So keeping an eye on that. Who knows whether costs will come down a bit, although there certainly is a base cost for this technology and all of that. So I've talked to a bunch of people on this subject, and half of them have said, absolutely not, don't raise parking rates. And the other half have said, I don't care what the parking rates are if it's easy to pay. The costs are relatively small, and I just don't want to wonder if I have quarters. So,
And these units take credit cards.
These units will take credit cards. They won't take, they won't take our card that goes in our lollipop meters.
Right, but they take credit cards, which
Or
will encourage...
credit or debit,
Some
correct.
people will be encouraged to park in lots rather than on the street
That's
because
correct.
it can pay by card. It's a convenience, and it's something that I think beneficial to the community, the parking community.
totally. But it'd be beneficial to the community to be able to pay by credit card on street too. It's just
Right, but
the-
unit by unit by
the
unit, it's
rock-
expensive, and
it's expensive.
4 units as opposed to
Yeah.
I don't know how many.
So again, we're getting a little off track here, but just I throw it out there. Another piece of the discussion is, could we, should we, might we go to a pay and display system similar to what they use in New York City, where there is a device somewhere on the block, but not necessarily right at your parking space. You go and pay, you get the chit, you put it back on the dashboard. Most of the feedback I've gotten, just anecdotally, has been that people really would much rather be able to get out of their car and pay right at the head of the space, as they do now with a coin. They wish they could have the capacity to pay with a credit card. So the question I throw out there for one's contemplation and feedback to any of us is, would it be worth increasing the parking rates to buy that functionality? So none of that, however, affects this. All in favor of 135, the authorization to bid for multi-space meters? Aye. Motion approved.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to go out for bid for a transit vehicle for the Clinton Street Center programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this Patty replaces the old Ford Taurus wagon.
It will, when it comes in. We're looking at bidding for a 2015 Transit Connect wagon or an equivalent vehicle. There had been a number of test drives taken already in this vehicle. I think this is going to suit their needs rather well.
Could you tell me what I never got a clear picture of what we use this for.
What we use,
The wagon.
smaller jaunts, smaller programs, smaller things that we don't have the need to take out the bus, which is very, much a gas guzzler. And
So you're looking for it to have any passengers that could possibly, how
Right.
many? are we
I
looking
think
at?
there are 8 in this.
And if they're disabled, there's room for their walker or
Second row, 3 seats.
I don't think it's 8. I think that.
It's not a wheelchair.
no, if you have a
accessible function.
walker,
Right.
it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you can't. If it was 8 residents that had that type of a disability, would we have to take the bus out anyway?
Why don't we use it for the Meals on Wheels deliveries sometimes, depending on what the volunteer status is. It's sort of a multi-purpose vehicle. Currently,
Meals on Wheels volunteers. take them
Joni
out
gave us an
themselves.
email on it. I'll
They're on
circulate
the
we
the
do,
email on it.
do sometimes end up making deliveries with Meals on Wheels with our people if we're short of a volunteer on a day. So
I mean, the biggest issue I think we've had with this is that aside from the fact that the Taurus is falling apart, that it's too low. We need something
Right.
higher for them to be able to pivot in and around it. To your point, I don't think we'll get a handicapped accessible vehicle.
No, I wasn't talking
itself,
about
but I think
handicap accessible. It's just storage of a walker or storage
it-
of
It's a
I don't know how many
fairly
people-
large minivan-esque type thing with 3 rows of seats.
a little bit similar to the new NPV 200
Yes.
Taxi the Future that New York City is
Which I
going
would
for.
love us to look at, but we can't.
Yeah.
I thought we had actually already put this up, but we haven't yet.
No.
Okay.
We budgeted some money for a vehicle like this, but we didn't put it up for bid yet.
That's it.
Yeah, that's one version of it.
Well,
We were
and the
hoping we
Taurus
did-
is
We were
what?
hoping we didn't have to. We were looking for state contracts, but there
The
aren't any
Taurus
on
is
state
what?
contracts.
12, 13 years old, something like that.
I think it's 15.
The Taurus does
Very
not
old.
owe us anything. It's,
No.
it's
Taurus has
definitely,
done its thing.
it's done its thing for us. So, all in favor?
So,
I'm sorry. Did you have more?
Yeah, one more question. So you see this used on a daily basis? I'm only asking this because I never got the answer during budget when I asked these questions. So I'm just want to know what. Do we use
Frequency
it
of
every
use?
day? Is it used like
Well, yes.
Because a wagon is different than a van. I mean,
Sure.
maybe this meets our needs more, but it's more of an expense, and we just got a new bus, which is great. We needed it. I'm not saying we don't need this, but I just trying to differentiate what we're using this for versus what we're using our brand new bus for.
This is smaller. But I
No.
can just answer
The-
that.
the-
Right.
the
So this
car
is,
Yeah, but
chassis.
you're
Mindy's
not
talking
going
about
to
the
get that
actual
bus
crack.
out.
We had an email from Joni on this about what they take the car out for every day. It's transportation for the seniors, smaller programs, maybe a
Smaller
smaller
numbers.
group.
Right.
It's smaller shopping trips. It's smaller everything, but even doctor's appointments. It's Meals on Wheels. It's
Errands.
for Richard to run out and get the stuff in the morning. It's got good cargo storage, so it's going to it'll replace the wagon, and it will,
And that's really the
It's-
driving
Yeah.
thing. And behind
Actually
this is
for,
that the
you know-
wagon
So
is.
what
It's
is
actually
the
pretty
the
reasonable.
price on this?
Well, the retail's $28,174, so hopefully with a bid we'll do a little better. It's not that expensive.
No. I mean,
So-
I'm on it now. It's 25 without a lot of, we don't need
Yeah.
all the fancy toys.
Right.
And the bus
We
requires
don't need
a
cruise
CDL?
control.
Huh? Yeah.
We don't need cruise control.
Does the bus require a CDL?
The bus does not, because it doesn't have more than 16 passengers. It
Okay.
doesn't have.
All right. So there's no distinction between who can drive that versus who can drive this?
That's correct.
So then, at the point at which a bid is received, we buy it, we get rid of the Taurus, our total vehicle count is the same as it's been.
That's right.
No change. So, all right, all in favor?
Well, hold on.
Oh,
When do
sorry.
we expect to get that back? I mean, what is the actual date that you think this thing might be in the parking lot?
Oh, if we get the bid out mid-August, return the bids, probably September. Someone will have this on a lot. I'm sure this is available.
Yeah, okay.
There's no build out for this. We'll be able to find this. In fact, the 2016s may be out, so I'll decide whether or not we might bid
That might be a good
2016.
point. You might want to wait, see what's in that one
Yeah.
versus this one.
Well, I'll bid for both, because maybe we'll get a cheaper deal on the 15 if it's sitting on a lot.
That's a good
If you
point.
don't mind a funny color, it'll probably be yellow or something strange.
I don't think we should get a yellow.
Yeah.
All right, we done with that? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 137.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to sign the management salary and benefit agreements for fiscal year 2015/16.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, these are the new salary and benefit packages for senior staff and department heads.
Yep,
An
yep.
average increase of
2.8.
2 point,
On average, 2.8% over the previous year's wages. Some of these were already contractually obligated, some were not, but I had provided a schedule for the board at our last executive session, and if you can see the recommendations, this is the last column. That's where the salaries would be set for June 1, 2015 through May 31, 2016, with some minor modifications to agreements.
okay, and the net increase to our costs is about $40,000 a year across these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, roughly 12 employees.
Yes.
So, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 138, Steve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby extends the access agreement with New York City Department of Environmental Protection in conjunction with the Nantahagan Brook Restoration Project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, this goes on forever.
Yeah, this
Why don't you
goes on
just
forever.
remind the
For the trustees
remind the
who
world
weren't-
what
yeah,
this
and several trustees
this
who
huge
weren't
venture is
involved.
about.
Sometime back in 1999, Hurricane Floyd, turned into Tropical Storm Floyd, came through the village with a vengeance and
Gusto.
took down a lot of trees here, but also breached a stream crossing up in Nantahagan Park where the New York City DEP aqueduct travels through the park. And apparently at that point in time, a new channel was created where Nantahagan Brook started to cross over the aqueduct at a point where it never did before, and since that time created a lot of erosion over the cover of the aqueduct. So DEP wants to get back into the park and restore the stream channel to where it used to be pre-Tropical Storm Floyd. And they've been working on this plan for many years. And-
It's been an emergency project for 16
yeah,
years.
and we had several years ago given them an access agreement to be able to go into the park, to due diligence, to come up with, their design and their plan to undertake this stream restoration project. They say now that, they're close to getting from design to implementation. They still have a couple of hurdles. They have to get some easements from property owners in Mount Pleasant. They also have to go through our planning board to get several permits, wetland disturbance and others. So there's still a lot of administrative processes, but they would like to renew their access agreement, so it's one less thing they have to worry about, so they can get back out there and some more reconnaissance and see what the situation is like now, which, of course, we have no issue with.
At a certain point when, I forget how many years ago, when we were talking to them, we did ask them if that, as part of this project, we can, because the fact is that there's a very strong possibility that some of this silt went into the lake, and love to see dredging that lake again as part of this project, and they were going to look to and maybe test some silt to see if we were indeed, the silt did go in there. Do you know if that ever happened, or?
They did not, because at this point, they've not done anything more than just get through their original scope, but they did have that discussion with us, even to look at the sedimentation basins to see if they are all gunked up from this as well. They would be responsible for cleaning those out. I think once they get into the project, the Planning Commission would probably compel them to do a number of surveys, even on Nantahagan
All right.
Pond, to do a bathrhythmic survey, they call it, to see the depth and how much is accumulated over the floor level there. So yeah, they did offer to see if this did cause any other degradation in the area of the pond or the wetlands.
Thank you.
But I have no idea when this will it just seems this
It's
is,
endless.
you know, it's still a long way out.
Okay, so we extend this agreement, and it, I mean, there are a number of other aspects of the situation we confront, including Con Ed's work up there and
Right.
various other projects that have been considered or proposed by some of our neighbors. This thing would be extended. I wonder whether we ought to expend it for a shorter time period. What's your take on that, Betty?
You mean to kind of induce them to get their.
Well, their schedule, if you see his cover letter, it
It's, yeah,
concerns me a little bit.
2018.
They think that they are going to go into contract of procurement next July, 12 months from now. They're not even before our planning commission yet, so that's a little ambitious, but they're talking about access through what they believe is going to be the full schedule. I think it's fine. I mean, I think, it really...
All right, I mean, we still have plenty of control.
Yes.
There are a whole number of gates they have to
Correct.
follow. So this went from 2011 to 2014. The extension of it is going to be to what?
2020, but they're saying that's when the project should be complete.
So the previous one was 3 years. This would be 5.
Correct. Yes, they're asking this to extend
Which I
for
think,
the life of the
considering
project.
at the pace at which they work, they may come back to us for another renewal
2020.
in 2020.
So they request an extension through October 2020. All right, so I suppose There isn't any reason to
I
let it-
understand your intrepidation
Right.
here. I really do. It's hard because of what has gone on.
I guess
back
I
there.
mean, likely by 2020, it'll be an entirely different cast of
It should be
characters.
finished.
Uh,
Well, that's true too.
I wonder whether we ought to make it 3 years, not 5.
It's fine. I don't
Let's
think they mind.
do. Is everyone okay with that?
I'm fine with that,
Yeah.
because
I'm fine with that.
you don't want to bind a future board.
Okay. All right, so we're going to extend it by a period of 3 years, not 5. So we'll say to October, we'll give them the October piece, to October 2018.
It
Well,
makes sense
through
because
18.
they won't need our permission to access the property once they get a planning commission approval. I
Right.
mean, they'll get that
Yeah.
at that point. So this is basically telling them that they should get their planning commission approval by 2018.
And if they haven't, they should come back and
Right.
talk to whoever is sitting here. Okay. There you have it. Mover and seconder okay with an extension to
Who was the mover and the seconder?
October 2018.
Who was the mover and the seconder?
Trustee Lord and yourself.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with
I
that
wasn't
too.
going to answer that until.
Seems like it was like.
All right, all in favor of the
hour
resolution
ago.
as revised?
We had a time
Aye,
limit.
motion approved.
That was a time
139.
limit. Sorry.
Is that me?
Yes.
That's you,
Okay,
yes.
resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village treasurer to close a capital account established for 48 Marble Avenue Recreation Center improvements as follows. Just the project is completed, so Recreation Center improvements H7180.201/13760 has zero balance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Major decision to close, ended account with a balance of 0. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved.
Resolved,
We have one more resolution added that wasn't on our original agenda, Colleen 140.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the appointment of Helio Camargo, did I say that
Yes.
correctly?
Thank
As a part-time fill-in court attendant for the Pleasantville Village Court effective Tuesday, July 28, 2015, at a salary of $20 per hour. Said appointment is subject to the satisfactory completion of a background check by our police chief.
Is there a second?
Second.
Didn't we recently do this? Thought we had. Didn't we have a clerk appointee, a court clerk appointee, or?
At the last meeting, we
Yeah.
have 2 part-time court attendants that are going to be leaving us. They've been with us for several years.
Very good.
They're
So I'm not
moving
going
on.
crazy.
They're our original hires.
Yes, they've done a very good job for us.
Yes.
So, Helio Camargo, among many other qualifications, has been an auxiliary police officer in Yonkers since May 2010, a deputy sheriff in Westchester County since February 2013. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. That is the last of our resolutions. Is there any comment from the public? Anybody want to bring up any subject? Our call-in number is 769-1677.
Let's give it a minute for the phone to ring.
While we're doing that, one other notice is that the state has notified us about the tax cap room we have this year and in 2016, and it's 0.73.
Well, it could be
Which-
worse for us. I mean,
Yeah, it could be
that's-
even worse for the villages.
We don't know what it is for villages because that's really just for fiscal year
But
starting
that's a
January
good
1.
indicator. It had been in
It's
the,
good. There's
in
no
past
inflation
years.
out there.
That's a killer. It's a killer.
One
Just
way to
wanted
look
to
at
say
it,
it.
Patty.
I know. I have to look at it that way.
So,
And if you don't know what we mean by the tax cap, if it's a thing that doesn't really resonate with you, and we encourage you to ask any one of us or call and find out what that really means for your government's ability to set its budgets and meet its bills and all that sort of stuff, right? Because it does put us in difficult positions, any municipal government.
It certainly does, especially in a circumstance like this, where to avoid breaking the tax cap at a 0.7%
I mean, it's
increase essentially means making cuts in other places.
and then
because-
raising the pension contribution possibly. That just will.
Right.
Well, you saw that, yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
We will have a growth factor, that'll help a little bit with toll
But it's a
brothers.
squeeze, Patty.
I mean,
Anyway,
not in the next fiscal year because they won't be up and running, but when they do, we'll get a little bit of a growth factor. But
So, at any rate, there'll be plenty more to talk about that as we launch our way into the next budget season after the first of the year. So, all right. Any other new business? Further comment? Comment from the public? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good evening. See you again in 2 weeks.